live. We are in the process of going live. Hello, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter. Who's preferring Threads, by the way? Any Threads fans? I like the real and rawness of Threads over Twitter. It becomes a little political for me on Twitter. Thank you for being here. It's been a hot minute. It feels nice to be back online, on live, on the platform USEness. So if you have lost weight over summer, good for you. Most of us are going to be in the other bucket. Most of us will have gained 1 to 3 kilograms, which is going to be around 5 pounds. For those of you in the American part of the world, that's totally fine. Look, if you've gained weight, chances are you had fun. Chances are you ate a little bit more dessert than usual. You drank a little bit more than usual. And life is to be enjoyed and celebrated after all. So I'm not here to shame you for that or look down upon you for that. I think life is too short not to enjoy. Though we want to be mindful. That's the big thing here. We want to be mindful in how we enjoy ourselves, because when we're mindful, then we are able to be intentional with our choices. Contrast to just waking up and seeing all that weight on the scales and wondering how that happened. It's, a little less of a shock when we're present and in the moment. And I think that's a big part in all of this, is just having a presence of mind, being intentional and connecting with your goals and seeing whether your actions and your beliefs actually align. Because for a lot of people, there's incongruence there. People say one thing and they do something else, and then they get frustrated and they wonder why they don't seem to be getting the traction that they want. So I wanted to start this in reverse, and I wanted to actually hang down, flip this and reverse it, to quote Missy Elliott, and actually start with what I wouldn't do, because sometimes it can be really helpful to have the clarity on what is not going to help, what is not going to work, what is going to backfire, where you shouldn't really put your time, attention, and energy and focus, because you only have so much of that. And I want to make sure that you put that to good use. So the first thing I would try very hard to not do would be to panic. And that is easier said than done. And I'll take you back to a moment where I came very close to panicking when back in 2010, cast your minds back with me to 2010. I had just got a job. I had just finished my university degree in public health. I had just got a job at a gym and pool complex towards the CBD of Brisbane, the Kelvin Grove area. For those of you who know Brisbane, that's my hometown. And I knew I was heavier than what I had been. I had just started to recover from an injury. And so I knew I was heavier. I didn't have scales at home. I never really had scales at home. I never grew up with scales. So I was a little aloof with regards to what I was about to see on those scales. And it shocked me. It did. And I saw that moment where I could have panicked. It was very clear to me that this can go one of two ways. I can start to panic, or I can take a moment to breathe, have compassion and empathy for myself, knowing what I've just been through and recovered from, what I'm continuing to recover from back then. And I can take it in my stride, know my power, and know that I have what it takes to lose that weight. And that's exactly what I did. So I have since then lost and kept off 15 kilograms. I have more than halved my body fat percentage. So back then I would have been closer to 32% body fat. For sure I was over 30. And I am less than half of that now. Okay. So it's going to be very easy when you see a number you haven't seen on the scales before, when it's higher than what you're accustomed to seeing, it's going to be easy to panic. And that is going to be a normal response. And it's also really, really unhelpful. It's not going to do anything for you. In this moment, what is going to be helpful is to just stop, take a deep breath, remember what you're made of, and get to work. And that's exactly what I did. Okay. Had I panicked about the fact that I stepped on those scales and I saw the highest number I'd ever seen by a country mile, by the way, not by a little bit, by a country flipping mile, I saw the biggest number I'd ever seen on those scales. Had I panicked, I would probably still be that number. But I didn't. I took a moment. I thought, okay, it's fine. I'm recovering from an injury. I know what to do. My body's in a much better place now. All I have to do is just do what I've done, get back into the routine. Okay. So panic, when we're panicked, we have no clarity. When we have no clarity, we have a tendency to just spin our wheels, throw spaghetti at the wall, hope that something sticks. And of course, nothing sticks. You get nowhere fast. So this is the first thing I want you to not do. Do not panic. It's just wait. It's not a bushfire. It's not a flood. It's not a hurricane. It's not a tsunami. It's not a typhoon. It's just wait. Calm down. All right? The second thing I want you to not do, because we're starting with the 5 things I want you to avoid doing. The second thing is I don't want you to start running or doing forms of exercise that you don't inherently enjoy. A lot of people come to me and they say, I know I should run. And I'm like, why? Like, who said that? Who said that you should run? It seems as though there's this assumption that we should run, or that fit people run, or that there's a need to run. For what reason? Where is the tiger? What are you running from? Where is the tidal wave? If you don't like running, how long do you think you're going to be running for before you start running away from running and running towards the fridge or something better? Do you see what I'm saying? If you don't inherently enjoy that particular way of eating or that particular form of exercise, please know you won't be doing it for very long, which means you're not going to get long-term results. Now, when I went back to the gym in 2010, I went back to what was familiar. I went back to what I enjoyed. I've always enjoyed the gym. I don't gym because I, feel that I'm forced to go there. I go to the gym because I enjoy that environment. I enjoy lifting things. I enjoy what I can do in the gym. That I like. I don't like all forms of exercise. I really don't. So I think it's really common for people to just try and think of the most torturesome form of exercise that they can do, and that they tend to gravitate towards that for some weird reason. It's like the harder it is, the better it is. So a 5 a.m. boot camp is where I'm going to be tomorrow. I'm going to start doing 5K runs, even though I hate running and my ankles are completely shit. It makes no sense, guys. Like, stop that. That's nonsense, okay? If you like being in a space training with other people, then go find a space that allows you to train with other people. If you like training by yourself, then go find a way that you can exercise by yourself. If you like exercising outdoors, go and exercise outdoors. I mean, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? Like, go do something you like. Oh, weird. I thought it had to be hard. I thought I had to hate it. No, exercise doesn't need to be hated to be effective. It also doesn't need to be hard in the sense that it doesn't have to feel out of alignment to be effective. Again, there are certain forms of exercise to me that are very much out of alignment. I don't exercise for social reasons. I am incredibly antisocial when I exercise. Don't talk to me, don't touch me unless my hair is on fire. Don't even think about approaching me. I have no interest in what you have to say. Leave me the F alone. That's me when I'm exercising. Mean. Standoffish. Don't touch me with a 10-foot pole. Like, unless you're going to throw me a protein bar, just don't even think about it. And I really mean that. Like, I really, really mean that. I can be very, very friendly, and I can be very, very standoffish. When I'm training, it's not for social reasons. I don't train to make friends. Okay? So all this to say, find a way to exercise that feels good for you, that you enjoy, and that you can see yourself doing beyond the initial loss of the 1.5 to 3.5 kg that you gained during summer. On to my next point. I don't want you to start cutting food groups out. There are going to be so many people who come back from summer break who are like, that's it, I'm cutting carbs. I mean, if you want to get lean, it doesn't make any sense at all. It just doesn't. You want to get lean, that means you probably need to build some muscle. If you need to build some muscle, you're going to need some carbs to fuel those workouts. So I don't want you to start cutting out gluten. I don't want you to start cutting out carbs. Even like alcohol to an extent. I mean, if you can reduce your alcohol intake, that's not going to be harmful. But if you can monitor your alcohol intake and do it in a healthy way and enjoy 1 or 2 glasses in a week with friends in a social environment, and if that feels as though it contributes to your social health and your mental and emotional well-being, it's really not the end of the world, okay? So people have a tendency to go from one extreme to the other. The thing is, when you go from 0 to 10, you go back to 0 and then -5. It's like the after photo. There's the like before and after photo. What's the after photo? You know, what happens after the 90 days? Then what? Because those who have the longest term success in any area of their life, they think in decades. I think about my health when I turn 80. I'm nowhere near 80. I'm not even halfway there. But that's why I've been able to build what I've been able to build when it comes to my health and well-being, because I'm thinking about it. It's on my radar. I'm not thinking about the next 30 days. I'm not thinking about the next 90 days. I'm not even thinking about the next year. I'm thinking about the next 5. I'm thinking about the next 20. And I'm thinking all the way up to 80. I want to be an 80-year-old who can unscrew jars of peanut butter without any help. And it will be crunchy peanut butter. Thanks for asking. So cutting out food groups, especially if they're groups of food that you enjoy for no real reason, is probably not the smartest way to lose weight long term, because that comes with an element of deprivation. And deprivation goes against survival instincts. When people feel deprived, on some level, they feel as though their survival is being threatened. It's not normal to feel like your survival is being threatened. We cannot thrive in that environment, in those settings, when we feel like something is encroaching on our ability to stay alive and to enjoy this level of health and abundance. That's just not normal. It goes against that. It very much goes against that. That can only work for so long. And if you're watching this, you've probably experienced that for yourself. Or you probably know someone who's lost 3 kilos and then put on 5. Why? They deprive themselves. You can only deprive yourself of something for so long before you must absolutely eat that slice of cake, donut, croissant, whatever the case may be. You can only deprive yourself so long. It doesn't work long term. And again, it's not natural. It goes against survival instincts. Unless you have a known food intolerance or sensitivity, I absolutely would not recommend cutting out food groups. On to the 4th item, which I do not want you to do. I don't want you to substitute your addictions. What I mean by that is, again, often addictive or impulsive behaviors can be substituted. And often we see this in people who give up smoking, but then they start drinking. Or they give up drinking and then they start gambling. Or they give up gambling and then they start online shopping. You see what I'm saying? A lot of these behaviors are interchangeable. And often it comes down the same root cause. There's some void which has not been filled. Now, what that void is, it could be one of many things. And it's very unique person to person. It's not for me to tell you what that is. It's for you to do the deep work with the right person or right people, right support group, and find out. But all this to say, be mindful when you create change in one area of your life Because if you don't work on changing the behavior at the deepest level, and when I say deepest level, I mean your belief system, then you're not going to change anything long term. And whatever you do change will be supplemented or substituted with something else. So item number 4, things I don't want you to do to try and lose weight this summer is seek to substitute one thing with something else. Again, you give up gluten, you start to consume all those calories just from cheese. You give up drinking, you then substitute alcohol for dessert. You give up dessert, you then substitute dessert for the calories from bread. Do you know, like, it's just easy for one to be replaced with another. When we want to create change, we have to go to the deepest level, which is your belief system. There is a belief that you hold, probably unconsciously, that's why it hasn't been changed yet, which is keeping you stuck. It's keeping you overweight. It's keeping you in these vicious cycles of behavior. And what I've noticed in at least Singapore is that people are focused on their health and well-being from February until summer. Then they go away for summer. They enjoy, quote unquote, enjoy themselves. They drink more than usual, eat more dessert than usual, have more fun, social time, put on 1 to 3 kg. And then they come back, they go, oh my goodness, where did this weight come from? Okay, I'm going to be super strict. Then they're very focused on their health and well-being from mid-July, early August until 2 weeks before Christmas, 1 to 2 weeks before Christmas. And then they repeat the same thing. They go back home for Christmas. They again eat more than usual, celebrate more than usual, celebrate harder, have more alcohol, more dessert, Christmas pudding, you name it. And they put on another 1 to 3 kg, which may be in addition to the weight that they gained in the middle of the year. Repeat, 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 repeat. Okay. So all this to say, it's no coincidence that this continues. It's no coincidence that people find themselves with this weight to lose because they're not doing the actual work of unpacking the belief system, which is keeping them stuck. And again, that is to be worked on with the right person, in the right setting, or with the right support group. It all stems back to the belief system. The 5th thing I don't want you to do to lose weight over summer is I don't want you to drink the Kool-Aid. And Kool-Aid, by that I mean the marketing Kool-Aid. I don't want you to believe the hype of these recent supplements to come to light. And by supplement, I think you know what I mean. I'm talking about Ozempic. I don't want you to believe the Kool-Aid of thinking that yoga and Pilates are all you need to do to get lean. I don't want you to believe the marketing employees that you can just hold amethyst spheres and you get super toned arms. There's so much BS out there. There's so many gimmicks. There's so many supplements, and so much of it is absolute nonsense. I would say upwards of 95% of it is complete and utter crap. And the people who I know who have been the fittest and healthiest for the longest periods of time are the people who are the most meticulous when it comes to their nutrition, and they are the most ridiculously routined when it comes to building muscle and progressively overloading their training. And that's it. That's the magic drink you've all been waiting to drink. I mean, that's as sophisticated as it gets. There's no magic pill. There's no secret ingredient. It's called grit. It's called patience. It's called consistency. And by the way, consistency, people really have interesting definitions of. Consistency for a lot of people just seems to be, I train twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, and they feel like that's consistent. But they don't realize how they're not consistent. By that, I mean they might train twice a week until their family member is in town or until their friends from outside of Singapore come to visit, and then they don't train for a week. Or they don't train for 2 weeks because they have guests in town and the following week their child gets sick. And I don't have children, so I'm not here to judge. But to take 2 weeks off of training for me is like six missed opportunities to train. For me, consistency is doing something at least 50% of the time, 90% of the time. What do I mean by that? If we look at a week, 50% of the time would be 3.5 times, okay? Stick with me. And then 90% of the time is over the course of a year. 90% of a year is 328 days. So it means that for 328 days of the whole year, you are training at least 3.5 times a week. That is really what consistency looks like from where I stand. That is foot in the door, entry level consistency. That's not high level consistency. That is not peak performance consistency. That's not amazing, worth celebrating, pop bottles of champagne, like, oh my God, I've been so amazing. No, that's just like that's the lowest level, foot in the door, consistency definition I can think of. Seriously. So a lot of people think they're consistent because they're like, yeah, I've been training with a trainer for like 2 years now or for like 3 years now. I'm like, cool. How many sessions did you do in that year? Only 80? That's not many. It's really not many. That's not even twice a week on average. Do you know? So I think people are too quick to think that they've been doing something for a long time, ongoing, and thus they've been consistent. But you have to look at consistency in different lenses. You have to look at it on the micro, being day to day, the meso, being like week to week, month to month, macro, being quarter to quarter, year on year, and then the mega. And mega could be a year cycle, it could be a 4-year cycle if you're like an Olympic athlete. So just because you've been training with someone for 2 or 3 consecutive years doesn't actually mean you're consistent in my definition. And I don't say that to be rude, and I don't say that just to be sassy, and I don't say that to be like, look at me. I say this with a very extensive background in training for various sports from a very young age, and having worked with a spectrum of people from various walks of life in different countries. And my observation is, and what I still think to be completely true, is that consistency is doing something at least 50% of the time, 90% of the time. And if you're not there yet, keep working towards that. Everything before that is still an attempt at being consistent. It's not established consistency. It's an attempt, but you can only establish consistency through more and more and more and more and more and more attempts. So it's still important. It just isn't consistency. So make sure you don't label it as such. Okay. And then on to my next point. So there are my 5 points about what I want you to not do in order to lose those summer kilos. What I do want you to do is I want you to, number 1, remain calm. Again, it's just weight. It's just weight. That's all it is. Okay? We can deal with that. We can lose it. It's science. Thermodynamics, progressive overload. We know how to lose weight. Okay? So I want you to chill the fuck down for 2 seconds. Let me do the panicking. You got this. Okay? We should then look to analyze your patterns of behavior. Why do you put on 3 kilos every single summer? And is that something you want to continue with? Nothing wrong with it. If you don't think there's anything wrong with it, if you're cool with that, I'm not here to judge. Like, cool, man. If that's working out, fine. But if you've noticed this routine and if you're not loving that, maybe take a step back and just think it through a little bit more. Do you know? Because it's no coincidence. If you gained 1 to 3 kilograms last year, at this time of year. And if you gain 1 to 3 kilograms Christmas 2023 and maybe Christmas 2022 and summer 2022 and so on and so forth, maybe there's a reason or a few. So again, that is worth unpacking. Okay, the next thing I want you to do, I already went over consistency. The next thing I want you to do is find forms of exercise you genuinely enjoy. I mentioned when I went back to the gym in 2010, I had already had a history of going to the gym. The gym was not new to me. It was a different chapter. It was not new. It was familiar. I was not a PT. I was not. But I had exposure to the gym and gym environments and training and lifting. It was not completely foreign. And I genuinely have always enjoyed that type of exercise. That's just me. Okay? You find what you like. You find time on your calendar. You schedule it in. Bippity, boppity, boop. If it's not on the calendar, it ain't going to happen. If you don't schedule it in, it's not going to happen. I want you to schedule it in for the next 6 months. Because even if you don't turn up then, it will be on your radar. If you need to reschedule, that's fine. If you have a meeting come up and you absolutely have to attend the meeting, at least you have seen for the week ahead when you were going to go to the gym. Now you can recalibrate. Those who make the most progress with me are the most organized. My clients scheduling their sessions, like the serious clients who get phenomenal results, schedule their sessions in for 4 months in advance. They always have 4 months worth of sessions booked in. Okay. So if you want to have the same success and same results, you got to think the same way. You have to be organized and you have to schedule that shit in. No one's going to save you, honey. Like no one's going to get your calendar on their G Drive, open it up and put it in for you. Like you have, that's just the work you have to do. You have to open your calendar and be like, I'm going to go to the gym here. And I want you to have backup plans. I want you to have non-negotiable sessions, and I want you to have alternative sessions in case something comes up, and in case you can't make those sessions, I want you to have backup plans. And again, if you don't enjoy those forms of exercise, you won't be doing them after 90 days. And you probably won't be doing them after 60 days. So do yourself a favor, commit to exercise that you enjoy. If you don't know what you enjoy, try shit. Like that's as scientific as it gets. Like try until you find something you like. Okay? And my phone needs to cool down because it's too hot. Amazing. So that's what's happening on IG at the moment. It's not even that hot, to be honest. Next tip. If you want to lose 1.5 to 3 kg over following your summer holidays, I want you to write down what works. People gain weight not because they lack information. It's never an information issue. We have more than enough information. We have the internet. Okay? We have all the information we need, by and large. This is very scientifically down pat. We've known how weight loss and fat loss works for a while. So it's not a lack of information. It's a lack of application. People stop getting results because they stop applying what works. Because building habits takes time. And it's boring. And it's repetitive. And thus people stop doing it. So I want you to think about a time where you have seen results and where something really worked for you. Maybe it was a certain schedule. Maybe it was a certain routine. Maybe it was a certain exercise class you were doing. And I want you to go back and analyze what worked, because there's great insights in that. And so without that introspection, we cannot expect anything to change. I'm not even sure this is still recording, honestly. Oh, yeah, it looks like it's going. Okay, to what worked and apply what worked and keep applying what worked and write it down. The thing is, building new habits takes so much longer than what we realize. Like, so much longer. Building new habits takes a lot longer than we realize. So we used to think it was 21 days. It's actually more like 66 days minimum. 66 is a lot more than 21. And again, I say that as a minimum. It's 66 to 250, in fact. I did a great podcast with Evan Button on how to set goals in a really effective way. It's actually my first podcast episode. So if you go to Laura Phillips Real Talk, so it's my IG handle. And if you're on another platform, it's the same. It's Laura Phillips, PHILLIPS, Real Talk on Spotify, also Apple Podcasts. My very first episode, how to set goals, and in a way that will make them stick. I believe I'm paraphrasing here. It was a long time ago. So that is a really, really, really great episode with Evan Button. We discuss obviously how you can set goals that are going to stick. So I'm sorry, I lost connection on Instagram. My phone overheated and I'm not sure what's happening with the video on StreamYard at the moment. If you can see me, amazing. Something might be happening with my camera. It's a tech nightmare over here. But anyway, we're just going to keep going because you just got to keep going. Just like with diet and exercise, you just have to, all that to say, people stop doing what works. I mean, think about it. Most of us have lost weight before. Most of us have lost 3 to 5, if not 10 kilograms before. I would say a lot of us, okay, like a fair portion. I would approximate up to 70% of the adult population have lost anywhere between 3 and 10 kilograms at least once. At least. How many of those people have kept the weight off is the follow-up question. I'm one of those people. I think my brother would be one of those people. My brother has done a phenomenal job at losing weight. How he has gone at keeping it off, I'm less certain of. But honestly, I don't know many people who have lost it and kept it off and kept going in keeping it off. So all this to say, look, if you've done something and it worked before and it felt sustainable, but then you just defaulted to old patterns and old routines, go back to what was working and assess how you can make it more sustainable. Or look to assess parts of that previous approach that you could reincorporate or reintroduce. Now, you probably didn't sustain it because you probably tried to change too much at once. And this is where my 3-goal rule can be really, really helpful. At any given time, I think it makes sense to have 3 goals and 3 goals only. Okay. Now, if you're new to the health and fitness, and if you're like completely overwhelmed, not sure where to start, this is where I like to begin with people. Have a goal related to fitness. That could be to exercise 3 times a week, which would be 12 times a month at least, because there's 4.22 weeks in a month. And that could be 36 times in 3 months, which is actually going to be like 38 times in 3 months. Okay. So that could be your fitness goal. Your second goal would be related to nutrition. Again, if you are new here, you don't know where to start, feeling completely overwhelmed, where I would start would be to increase your protein intake. to be aiming for at least 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of what you weigh a day. Quick maths, if you weigh 60 kilograms, that's 90 grams of actual protein a day. Not 90 grams of chicken breast, for the love of God. 90 grams of chicken breast is like 27 grams of protein, okay? So that gives you like a third of your daily requirement, but 90 grams of chicken breast is not 90 grams of protein. Some people still don't know that. So that would be my nutrition goal. And the third goal would be related to mindset. And where you might start would be to dedicate 1% of your day, which is 15 minutes, to working on your mindset. It could be journaling, it could be meditation, it could be breath work, whatever feels good for you, 1% of your day. That's going to move the needle on your self-awareness. That's going to move the needle on your self-belief. That's going to move the needle on you being able to align your words with your actions. And you need to align your words with your actions if you want to have the confidence. And you kind of need confidence to try things when you're not sure that you can do them, right? Like, I know I could back squat 130 kilograms one day. Maybe not yet today, but I know I can get there. And I know that because I know that I can work towards something, because I have a lot of evidence over the course of my life to suggest that I can work towards something, because I've worked towards a lot of things and I continue to work towards a lot of things. So unless you have that bank of evidence of you seeing yourself work towards something, it's going to be very, very hard to have enough confidence to even entertain the idea of trying things that you haven't yet tried. Okay. All this to go back to my initial point being, you got to have goals. Okay. And if you're not sure where to start, that would be where I start. Have a goal related to fitness, just one. Have a goal related to nutrition, just one. Have a goal related to headspace, just one. And they would be my 3 examples. You can tie habit trackers into this if you're a person who likes data, who likes metrics, who likes the hit of dopamine when you get to click done on a habit tracker, then go for it. That's just a self-awareness piece. And if that works for you, absolutely go for it. Then I recommend it. But again, information is not the issue. Application is. If you've lost weight before, but you regained it, go back and understand what you did to lose the weight and make an effort to understand what was it about that approach that worked, or what was it about that approach that didn't work? Why didn't I stick to what I was doing? What was not sustainable about that? What was unsustainable? What could I have done differently so that it would have been easier for me to keep going? They would be questions I would be asking myself. But again, losing weight or losing fat is not rocket science. Keeping it off, your ability to keep it off, comes down to how self-aware you are. Because most of you have, I don't mean to be mean when I say this, but not a whole lot of self-awareness. Just straight up, not a whole lot. And if you had self-awareness, you would know why I didn't keep the weight off, right? Like, you wouldn't be here. So, you know. Okay, my point number 4 is the 20% rule. me